Out of hundreds of these letters, there's one shape that shows up more than any other. And it isn't the match who's obviously wrong. The obviously wrong ones are easy. Everybody clocks those. The one that keeps coming back, in city after city, is the opposite. The match who's perfect. Perfect from the very first message. Same taste, same history, the same rare little thing you thought nobody else understood. Catch this, because it's the whole channel tonight. When a stranger fits you exactly and instantly, that is not chemistry. Chemistry has friction. This is something else. Watch the small thing. And there's a line this type says almost every time, so listen for it. Some version of, I know how this sounds, but it's a disarming move. It gets in front of your suspicion and diffuses it before you've even finished feeling it. Once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. Let's go find it. Portland, a rainy Tuesday, which in Portland is just called Tuesday. A woman named Cass, on Hinge, tired of the app in the specific way everyone gets tired of the app. The sameness, the effort, the low, sad hum of it. And then a message that felt like the app finally working. He led with one of her obscure favorites, not a big one, a tiny band she had exactly one photo of on her profile. A band you'd have to actually care to recognize. No way you like them too. I never meet anyone who does. I know how this sounds, but I think we might be in trouble here. And Cass, honestly, lit up. Because when you've been swiping through nothing for months, being met that precisely feels like weather breaking. They talked all night. He shared her taste in films, down to the weird ones. He'd been to the same tiny town she'd spent a summer in. He read the same obscure writer she'd never once had a conversation about. Every single thing landed. Her friends, when she told them, said what friends say. You lucky thing, finally, see, it does happen. Here's where it should feel good, and for a while it did, so I'm not going to pretend she was foolish for enjoying it. But somewhere around the third night, something didn't add up, and to her credit, she noticed it, even if she couldn't name it yet. It was too complete. In every real connection, there's a mismatch. You love a thing they've never heard of, they love a thing you find boring, and you tease each other about it. With him, there was no mismatch, not one. He fit her like a reflection fits the person standing in front of the mirror. Exactly. Reversed. That's the word. And once she had it, she couldn't put it down. Reflection. So she did the thing the code detective in you is already itching to do. She went back through her own profile, her own public accounts, with cold eyes, and she started matching his coincidences to their sources. The tiny band, one photo, visible on her profile. The weird films, a list, public, on an app she'd forgotten was linked. The obscure writer, a comment she'd left on a post 2 years ago. The little town, a geotag on a summer album she'd never made private. Every single thing he happened to share, she had published first. He hadn't found a soulmate, he'd found a checklist and read it back to her as fate. And here's the part that makes this one eerie instead of just sad. The part I want you to sit with. When she blocked him, it hurt. It genuinely hurt. More than the real matches that had gone nowhere, because for 3 nights she had felt more understood than she had in a year, and none of it had been real. The fear here isn't that he was a stranger. Say the real one out loud. The fear is that the most understood you've ever felt can be manufactured by someone who spent 20 minutes reading your footprint, and that walking away from it feels like grieving something, even when you know it was never there. That's the trap. It's built to make leaving feel like loss. The mechanics are almost boring, which is the honest version. No hacking, no genius. A public profile, a linked list, an old comment, a geotag, and a person patient enough to assemble them into a mirror and confident enough to lead with, I know how this sounds. Cass got out in 3 days with nothing worse than a bruise on her judgment. Remember the mirror and remember that line. They come back tonight, and they come back at a second date in a couple of weeks, and the second time is worse. Tulsa, shorter. A woman named Lena on one of those language exchange apps. You pair with someone learning your language while you learn theirs, and it's wholesome, and it's mostly people practicing verb tenses. She matched with a man who was warm and funny, and from the first exchange, uncannily on her wavelength. He phrased things the way she phrased things. He'd echo her back to herself, slightly polished, so that talking to him felt like talking to the best version of her own inner voice. Then one night, he quoted something, a specific line, a specific little turn of phrase about the way rain sounds on a window unit. And Lena went cold, because she had written that line years ago on a blog she'd deleted. It did not exist anymore. She had erased it herself. Except nothing you put on the internet is ever really erased. And catch this, it comes back. The blog was gone, but it had been archived, cached, screenshotted into the permanent quiet corners of the web where deleted things go to keep existing. He'd read her deleted writing before he ever said hello, and he'd salted her own sentences back into their conversation to feel like a mind that matched hers. It's not weakness that she fell for it. Anyone would read a stranger quoting your own buried words as some kind of destiny. It's timing and research and a person willing to do both. She stopped replying. The archive's still out there, so probably is he. Richmond. This one's the quietest, and it sits with you the longest. A woman named Dana, widowed young. No, not widowed, that's the wrong word. She'd lost her father, suddenly, a couple of years back, and she'd written about it the way a lot of us process things now, publicly, in careful, honest paragraphs, because saying it into the void helps. In one of those posts, she'd written about how her dad taught her the winter constellations, and how she couldn't look up on a cold night without hearing his voice naming them. She met a man on a hobby forum, amateur astronomy of all the tender things, and early on, unprompted, he told her he'd lost his own father the same way, and that his dad had taught him the same winter sky, and he said it almost word for word the way she had written it. The same grief, mirrored back in her own phrasing. For someone carrying that particular weight, being met there, in the exact spot that hurts, is overwhelming. It felt like the universe apologizing. But here's the small thing, and it's a cruel one. Grief has texture. Real grief is specific and lumpy and inconvenient. It comes out sideways, in odd details, never in clean, matching paragraphs. His was smooth. His was her post, reflected. She found it eventually, the memorial she'd written, public, still up, and she laid his words next to hers, and they were the same words. He hadn't lost anyone. He'd read what she'd lost and worn it to get close fast. Naming that fear plainly, the horror isn't a monster. It's a man who will pick up your dead and hold them like a key to your front door. Dana stepped back. She kept the post up because it was true, and her grief was hers, and she wasn't going to delete something real because someone had once counterfeited it. Fresno. A woman named Bex gets a message from a stranger who opens like they already know each other. "It's been years! I can't believe your profile came up." And he's specific. He names an event, a street festival she actually went to 3 summers ago, and he talks about it like they met there, like there's history. Bex doesn't remember him at all, but he is so warm and so certain and so detailed that within a few messages, she's the one apologizing, second-guessing her own memory, thinking maybe, God, was I rude to him back then? Did I forget someone kind? That's the whole move, and it's a nasty one, so catch it. He was never at that festival with her. He didn't need to be. She'd been tagged in a photo album from it. Location, date, faces, all public, and he'd read the album and reversed it into a shared memory, betting that her own politeness and her own fuzzy 3-year-old recollection would fill in the rest and hand him a past he was never part of. The fear he's exploiting isn't fear of a stranger, it's the fear of being the rude one. The fear that says, surely I'm the one misremembering, and it will walk you backwards into trusting a person who manufactured your history from a tagged photo. Bex checked the album, saw exactly where he'd mined it, and unsecond-guessed herself. She was right. She never met him. The certainty was the con. Providence. Last one, and finally, someone hears it coming. A woman named Simone who, and this matters, had a friend go through almost exactly the Portland story a year earlier, and had watched it happen, and had filed the shape of it away. So when a match opened with one of her rarer interests, and the line, "I know how this sounds, but I feel like we're going to be a problem," Simone didn't light up. She went still. Because she'd heard that exact melody before, secondhand, and she recognized it on the first bar. So she tested it, which is the co-detective move of the night. She mentioned, casually, a favorite that wasn't real, a made-up band, a film that doesn't exist, dropped in like it was hers. And right on cue, a few messages later, he'd been to see them live. He loved that one. What a coincidence. He couldn't have. She'd invented it that afternoon. The mirror reflected a thing that was never there, and that was the confession. She blocked him before the second real conversation ever started. She saw it, and she closed the door. End of story. Best kind of ending. And the only difference between Simone and the 4 before her was that somebody had told her the pattern first. Which is the entire reason we sit here in the dark and read these. So here's where it lands, and why this one ends in the present tense instead of the past. This type isn't a story that happened, it's a method that's running right now, tonight, in every app on your phone because it costs nothing and it works. A public profile, a cached blog, a memorial, a tagged album, a footprint, and 20 patient minutes to reflect it back at you as fate. You don't have to delete yourself off the internet to be safe from it. You just have to remember the one true thing. When someone fits you perfectly and instantly and leads with, "I know how this sounds," the small thing to watch isn't him. It's the feeling that you've finally been understood. Real understanding is slower than that. Real understanding gets things a little wrong. Sunday, we changed lanes. A scammer who picked exactly the wrong target and the honest, unhurried way that came back around on him. And then, a week out, the mirror returns, but off the screen this time. A friendly regular from a game squad, the harmless one, waiting by a staff door at 1 a.m, standing exactly where he was never told she'd be. Same fingerprint, same disarming line. Plant it tonight. Catch it then. Night, watch out.